Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Faith Stories one more time. It's so beautiful to have you here. If this is your first time, I believe God led you here. Don't log out yet. Just give it another 10 minutes and see what God has in stock for you before you log out. And if you're a returning subscriber, I love you. What's the sign of love? Yeah, I think this is
I can't really make that.
I like, okay. I love you. Yeah, sorry. I love you. Thank you for always coming back and watching what we post here. On this channel, we chronicle the faithfulness of God and we share testimonies of how God is working with individuals like you and I. But more importantly, what we do is to highlight the story behind each person's journey. And in doing that, we hope that we're able to learn one or two things about who God is. And also, we are also able to stay encouraged when you listen to what others are going through. It helps us to know that God is still in the business of doing miracles and is also still in the business of giving us good things. He wants us to have a good life, and that's what we choose to showcase on this channel. So once again, thank you for joining us today. Okay, so today I have with me Chidera Ibegwam. Chidera, welcome,
Okay. Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, so it's just our custom here as our way of starting. Can you introduce yourself and just share with us a little bit about your faith background?
Of course. So my name is Chidera. Um, I am Nigerian. I was born and raised. I moved to the US when I was about 20. Um, so I've been here for a little over 10 years now. So faith background, I was raised Catholic. So right from when I was, as soon as I could walk, even probably before then, I was going to church. I was raised Catholic. I went to catechism. I did everything that, Catholic children are supposed to do. I even went to an all-girls Catholic school. So my faith background has been strongly built on the Catholic faith, in the Catholic church and other Catholic like traditions and everything. So moving here, that didn't change much. I actually still do go to Catholic church, but I think at the moment in my life, my faith has kind of grown. I'm not gonna say it's grown past the Catholic church, but it's just I opened myself up to observing and being part of other ways to worship God, if that makes sense. Um, and I would also say growing up, I just kind of always believed that there's a God. We're praying, you say your rosary, we're supposed to pray, you pray, you need something, you ask God for whatever it is, and He will bless you with it, or He will have you wait for it, because I guess it's not time for you to have whatever it is yet. So yeah, that's mostly what my background with faith is, being that staunch Catholic church member and just following all the traditions and rules that I was brought up with. But as you grow and as you have life experiences, things change and you learn and you grow and you make adjustments
Mm.
to what you're or whatever phase in life you're currently in. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I'm sure that as we go on in this interview, we will get to learn more how your faith has transformed from growing up in a Catholic church to where you are now. I'm not sure what church you go to, but it's just about, it's not about churches. More and more, it's about your relationship with God, right?
Absolutely.
So we'd like to hear a story. What is your testimony, or as we like to call it on this channel, what is your faith journey? Can you share it with our audience today?
Absolutely. So I have had many faith journeys, but my biggest one so far has been surviving cancer. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning when it all started. I think about 2017, 2018, I I was diagnosed with PCOS. And after that, you know what comes with that, irregular periods and everything. And at a point, I was having periods every 3 months, and I thought that was bad. But then by 2020, I think I was on my period the entire year, every single day, 365 days out of the year. I was tired, cranky. I had to have so many blood transfusions. I was in and out of the hospital, and every single time the doctors would do CT scans, MRIs, X-rays, and it was always the same thing. We don't know what's wrong with you. We can't tell you why you're bleeding constantly, like every single day. And I would go home, and a month later, I would repeat the same thing again. I would end up in the emergency room, getting blood transfusions. And again, we don't know what's wrong with you. Sorry, you can go home now. And yeah, so that cycle continued until end of 2020. I had moved from Maryland to Missouri, and same thing continued. I think towards the end of 2021, I got a new primary care provider, and she told me, okay, I'm gonna need you to see a gynecologist, which I was already doing back in Maryland, but it was the same story every single time. There's no scan on earth I did not do, but nobody knew what was wrong with me. So she recommended someone, and Dr. Rebecca Wyman, and I went to see her. Before that, actually, I was in the ER maybe like 2 or 3 times for the same thing. The pain, it was bleeding, and then the pain got added to it. Like the pain was so severe where once it starts, I can't function. I would literally have to lay in bed in a specific position and not move, because if I move, it just intensifies. I couldn't eat. Everything I ate, I vomited. So I was going to the ER again. They gave me another blood transfusion. My last visit to the ER, they were like, the doctor didn't exactly say what he saw, but he said he saw something on my liver and he wanted me to go see a gynecologist, which didn't make sense because if something is on my liver, why am I seeing a gynecologist? But okay. So I talked to my primary care. She recommended a doctor. So I went to see her. I think for the first time, maybe because it's a woman, but she actually listened to me. She listened to my entire story from beginning to that moment. And then she gave me options. She told me I either had endometriosis or fibroids. And that to be 100% sure, she would have to do a laparoscopic surgery to find out what exactly was wrong, because they can only do so many scans. And I had done like 2 scans within a month before I met her. So she didn't see anything on the scans, and she said she would have to do the surgery. And I was like, okay, just go ahead. If it will make whatever is going on stop, I'm all for it. So she suggested the surgery, gave me other risks and the benefits. I think at that point, all I was hearing was the benefits. So I said, okay. And she scheduled it a week later. I went into surgery. I came out. Okay, thank God for that. I automatically started to feel better. So they scheduled a follow-up a week after the surgery to see how I was doing and how I was faring, and to also let me know what the results of the surgery or whatever they found were. So a week later was August 29th, my birthday. I went to see my gynecologist, and she explained to me I did have endometriosis. It was, the tissue was kind of outside my uterus, and I also had fibroids, which they removed. She said she removes fibroids, she removed endometrial tissue as well. And she also mentioned that just because of how the tissue had grown and spread, she had to do a biopsy to make sure that, it wasn't anything to be worried about. And I mean, the second she said biopsy, I kind of started freaking out. And that was, I had also just started nursing school. That was literally 2 weeks into nursing school. And she was like, oh, we did a biopsy and it came back positive for cancer cells. I don't think I heard anything else after she said the word cancer. I was like, oh, She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna send you to an oncologist who will give you a definite diagnosis."
Mm.
And I was like, "Okay." She was like, "I'm so sorry." I was like, "Thank you." And I went home. Well, I left her office. I was headed home, but I think I held myself together until I got to my car, and I literally just bust out crying. I think
Mm.
I sat in my car for like 2 hours in front of her office, and I cried and I cried and I cried. And I was just, I don't even think I was angry yet. I was just sad because I was like, I was finally feeling okay. I wasn't in pain anymore. And then I was just like, what else could go wrong? Because this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I was expecting her to say, oh, you're great, you're fine, go about your life and, get your life back together and everything. But yeah, I didn't expect that. So after that, I came home and the days went on. I called. It took me almost a month to actually tell my mom because she doesn't live here with me. And I only have a cousin who lived in Missouri with me. So it's pretty much just me. Um,
Mm.
I scheduled to see the oncologist. I was grateful enough my cousin was able to accompany me to that visit. And he had told me when I got there, they broke everything down for me. So the cancer had spread. It started in my uterus. It had spread from my uterus to my ovaries to practically everywhere. And it was now progressing to my liver, which I think is what the emergency room doctor saw. So, and I had done scans between when I had my surgery and when I saw the doctor. That was 3 weeks
Mm.
difference. I had done a scan. After I saw the doctor, he told me he would have me do a couple more scans and an MRI as well. And then after that, based on the results, he would recommend treatment, what the treatment would be. And I said, okay. I went and did another round of scans again. And 3 weeks later, I came back to see him, and he was like, "Oh, you had this mass on your liver 3 weeks ago when you came to see me. It has tripled in size.
Mm.
So that means the cancer is aggressively spreading." And I was like, okay, well, what are we doing? What are we going to do? So he said, okay, we're going to do a couple of chemotherapy treatments, sessions. And then after that, we're going to do surgery. And the surgery would have to be a hysterectomy. And I've always wanted kids. So, of course, the first thing I asked was, what are my chances? And he was like, he was blunt. He was honest. He was like, he wouldn't recommend, and he doesn't think, based on how far it had spread, he doesn't think that you know, there's not really anything they can do. Because I was like, okay, because he was recommending a total, it's a long name. It's a very long, it's called a bilateral oophorectomy, something, hysterectomy. So they're taking out the uterus, they're taking out your fallopian tubes, they're taking out your ovaries, they're taking out your entire reproductive system. Yeah. So I was like, can I even do like an egg, a vest or something? And he was like, your cancer is estrogen dependent. So doing, because if you want to harvest eggs, they have to give you all those hormone shots and stuff. So he said doing that would just aggravate the entire thing,
Mm.
make it worse. So I was like, what I'm hearing is I don't have any options except this. And he said yes. And I said, okay. And I honestly thought I was gonna die. Jokes apart. I'm laughing about it now, but I wasn't laughing then. I was
Mm.
extremely sad and depressed. But he said we had to start chemo immediately. We started chemo. I stayed in school because I just had this sinking feeling that I guess that was kind of also my fate telling me to hang on because things were gonna get better. Because I had a choice of clearly dropping out at that point because that was a lot to handle. But I kind of made I made promised myself that I was at least gonna finish my first semester and then take the next semester off. That way I know I've started, now I have to finish. So I stayed in school. So in between chemo treatments, I was going to school, doing clinicals, and I was feeling miserable the entire time. But I prayed. I prayed like crazy. I prayed every day, every minute, every second I could get. I was praying. I was begging, I was crying, I was doing everything possible, whatever I knew how, however I knew how to pray to God, I was praying to God. And I told him, like, I'm gonna need a sign that I'm going to make it through this. And I asked for something specific because they were saying the way it was spreading, if it was in my, well, it was in the pelvic area since it had gotten to the liver. So of course, as it goes up, the next place is your lungs. And I was like, if I'm going to survive this, I need you to give me a sign, and the sign to be, I'm going to need this to stop spreading. Like, I mean, completely stop spreading. So I hung on to that. I prayed over that. Like the week before I started my chemo treatments, because they have you do scans almost every 2 weeks just to see how
Progression.
the progression of everything. So yeah, I think like that was maybe like a week and a half or 2 weeks before my chemo treatments were scheduled to start. I went for another scan, and the scan results came back, and whatever they had seen on my liver was completely gone. Yep, it was not there. It was completely, yeah, that was the look on my face. I was like, oh, okay. So he heard me. And I think, yeah,
When God confuses science.
I know. Whatever he said, the doctor was confused for a second. He was like, oh, you looked at my last two scans, and he was like, okay, well, there's nothing in your liver right now. It's like, great, good. I think also, well, now everything is over, and I think about that part. I just wish I'd had a little bit more faith. Um, I just had this sneaking suspicion that like I could have outlasted or just waited for the like not done the surgery when I did it. Because the options were keep doing chemo and see how you fare or how the cancer goes. But I was just too miserable. I just wanted everything to be done with. So I followed my own intuition instead of just like trusting God in that part. But yeah, that's just like further down the line. But yeah, so we started chemo a week after that. Those results came out. First session, they ended up having to stop because the medication they gave me, I had a very bad reaction to it. Yeah, so they rescheduled me. I finally started, and then I had, I think, like 4 or 5 sessions from around October of 2022 to January 2023. And then the surgery date for some reason, kept being pushed. It went from January to the end, well, middle of January to the ending of January, from the ending of January to the middle of February, or rather to the beginning of February. And then they were about to push it to March or April or something. And I think that may have been a message, but I wasn't seeing it or hearing it, or whatever I was supposed to do, I wasn't doing, because it just made me annoyed. And I called them and I was like, you guys can't, because I took the semester off school. My plan was do everything, finish your treatment, so that by the time fall comes around, you go back to school and you're great, you know? So I was like, you're telling me now I put my life on hold for no reason. Because if I had known they were going to push the surgery to April, I could have just stayed in school. So I got upset. I called, I yelled, I cried a little bit, and they're like, we're sorry, we'll fix it. So they fixed it. They scheduled my surgery for February 18th. And I went in, did the surgery. I think it took about 3.5 to 4 hours, I think. And then after surgery, I came out of it okay. I came out of it great. Cousin picked me up. watched me for a couple of days, and then I went because I live alone. I lived alone that entire time. So I went back to my apartment, and the next thing was also like radiation treatments. I had to have, I think, 3 or 4 months of that as well. So I had to go for my follow-up, went to see the radiologist, started the treatments, they've scheduled everything. And in between all that time as well, there's also the part of living alone, going through all of that. So it's like, it doesn't matter how bad or sad or just depressed you feel, it's just you. So you kind of just have to suck it up. And it was very sad for me. It was very depressing. I think when I finally told my mom, her faith kind of strengthened me. She didn't flinch. She didn't nothing. She just told me, it's okay, you're gonna be okay. Nothing is gonna happen to you. You're gonna be fine. And she told me that. I'm very grateful for that, because she reminded me that every single day, nothing was going to happen to you. I'm praying for you. God says you will not die, nothing is gonna happen. Because that, I think that was a part of the journey that I never really opened up about, like being scared. I don't think I ever really talked to anybody about that. Like, I was afraid, like legit scared, but it's something, I kind of just power through, again, with prayer. Because I think my neighbors probably got tired of me. I was singing all the time and praying. And yeah, that really helped me. But her faith as well strengthened me. She reminded me every day how much God loved me and how much she knew, she had faith that I was going to survive. July 13th, I woke up positive minded. I prayed, I got up, went to see my oncologist, and he told me, based on my test results and all the scans, the MRI and the CT scan that I had done, it showed that I had responded extremely well to all my treatments. And as at that moment, I was not showing any signs of having cancer. Yeah. I was, yeah, I sighed. I heaved a huge sigh of relief. I was like, finally, you're telling me, this is it. And he's like, well, yes, you still have to come in every we started at 2 months, and then now I think we're at 4 months. So every 4 months, I still have to go in, I have a port. This is where I had my chemo from. I have to get my port flushed, and I have to get blood drawn just to, make sure that it's called, I always forget the name, but I think it's C193. They check the levels to make sure. The low, I think my doctor always says, as long as it's under 30, you're fine. So yeah, my numbers have been great. They've been below 2. So that just tells me that I don't have anything to worry about. And I'm hoping that they stay that way. But all through their journey, I think one of my favorite Bible verses was or is to this moment, Romans 8:31, where it was talking about how if God is for you, nothing else or no one else can be against you. And I don't know why it was that Bible verse, but that was it for me. It kind of just like, it glued me together through the entire thing.
So I heard you talking about how you saw different signs, right? But you were impatient. How did you find a balance between trusting God and trusting medical science?
So I'll say this. I'm still looking for that balance. I'll be honest. It's not something that I've mastered, because ever so often I would still talk to God. And even though I know that He has answered my prayers, or He has made me be patient, and I've seen the miracles and the prayers still get answered just exactly at the right time. It might not feel like it in the beginning, but when it finally happens, you sit back and you're like, if this had happened earlier, it might not have turned out so good. But now that it happened exactly when I needed it. So finding that balance during that time is not something I learned until much later. And I'm still learning actually, because it was hard having to pray all the time, and just I always believed in God. But during that period, everything just kind of heightened and kind of came together for me. But at the same time, because it was almost like I was starting my journey afresh, because I honestly would say before that, my faith was just, I know God is there. I pray every morning. I wake up, I say my prayers, and the night I say my prayers before I go to bed. But that was just it. It was just like doing the motions, doing part of your daily tasks. I was kind of like checking off boxes. You're supposed to pray when you wake up. You're supposed to pray before you go to bed. You're supposed to pray before you eat your food. That was what it was like for me at that point. So it was when that started, it was almost as if I was starting my faith journey afresh. I was believing in God for the first time almost. So there's also like a part of self-doubt to that. It's like, oh, I know I pray, I know he's there, I know he answers my prayers, but I still just want to see that tangible thing I can hold on to. I still want to see that tangible thing, that physical thing I can touch and say, okay, yeah, I know this is all me, and this is all science, and this is all, something that I can look at and feel good. I know God is there, but it's like, you know how to say, blessed are those who don't see but believe or stuff. But yeah. So yeah, in that moment, I needed my spiritual part, and I also needed my human and physical part. So I would believe if a doctor was telling me, oh, this is what we need to do, I would say, okay, let's do it. And, let's go ahead with it. And then something would happen, like the surgery being pushed multiple times. I think in that moment, I was meant to pay attention to that. But in my head, I was like, I need you people to move, 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 move. I have places to be. I have goals I need to get to. I have things I need to get done. All I saw that as was a delay to my future plans. And in that moment, when all that stuff was going on, I wasn't thinking,
this could be God.
Yeah, this could be a way of telling you, like, could you just have a little patience? Because you might not actually need that surgery that you so badly want to get. But it wasn't until after the surgery and a couple of months later, I was like, wait, what if I had just waited? What if I had just kept doing chemo treatments? But the whole thing of making that decision to do surgery was because the chemo just made me feel miserable. I knew if I wanted to finish school, that wasn't an option because I barely survived that first semester. I wasn't about to do that again. So I was like, no, let's do surgery. Let's get it over with. Let's get all the treatments done before I have to go back to school. I don't want this to get in my way. All I saw that as an obstacle, a hurdle I needed to jump over and move on. I didn't see it as an opportunity to have faith, an opportunity to believe in God again, or like, to build on the faith that I was already working on. I didn't see it as that. I just saw it as this hurdle that I needed to just clear out of my path because it wasn't. So yeah, I didn't find a balance there. I'm still finding the balance now, but it has gotten so much better to where if I pray for something, they say when you pray, when you ask God for something, when you talk to God, actually listen to what he tells you in response. Because that was me. Once I pray, I'm like, okay, God, I've prayed. I've asked you for this. Now it's your time to do it. So get to work. And I would just, if nothing is happening, there I go, trying to, take things into my own hands and trying to work it out myself. But I've slowly learned that that's not how it is. Yeah, you pray and then you listen and then you wait for God to speak to you, to answer your prayers, to show you what you need to do, to tell you not right now or right now. Because It's one thing to have your own will, and it's one thing with God's will. Because if your will is not aligning with God's will, eh, nothing happens. Because in
Yeah.
his own time, according to his will, that's when things happen. So yeah, I'm slowly
Yeah.
learning that. But
Yeah.
during that period, it was not something I was keen or yeah.
And you know, you were able to reflect and then just spot things to say, maybe this was God trying to talk to me. And what has that produced in you is the fruit of when I pray, listen. Communication is two ways, right? They say when there's communication breakdown is when you just say what you want to say and you don't
Mm,
get to receive. And that journey, what I'm seeing here is that journey, as painful as it is, has led you here, where you
yes.
then realize that when I pray, I have to be patient. And as you were speaking, I kept remembering the story of the apostles when I think it was Paul that was arrested
Mm,
and they gathered and they were praying for him. Sometimes we're praying and we have a picture of what the answer should be.
yes.
And when God does not answer the specific way we have pictured, it is not an answer.
Exactly.
And sometimes He allows us to go through things just to it gives us personal experiences, just to teach us something like, I love you. I need you to understand this, right? That when you pray, right, listen, just wait. I'm constantly talking, right? I want to talk to you. I am not a God that after you have asked me, I just keep mute, right? But it is sometimes the journey is painful. So if you will come just capture this entire experience, how was it, apart from you getting that lesson out of it to say, when I pray, I need to listen. Can you describe how this entire experience has changed you as a person and your perspective of who God is and even your relationship with God?
So as a person, I think I'm I've always been a kind person. I've always been that person who, what's the word we use these days, does a little too much. Whether I'm asked or not, I always want to do something to help. But during this whole experience has taught me it's okay to say no. You don't, because even while I was going through that, I'm not gonna lie, someone had asked me for help, I would have probably tried to do something to help them, even though me myself, I'm not even in a position to help. But I slowly learned to say no without over explaining myself as to why I'm saying no. So I took my self-care, myself, I viewed myself with a little more importance than I used to. Um, and that helped me build a better relationship with myself as well. So I look out for myself more now than I used to before. Um, During that time as well, I think God used it to teach me how much self-worth I have within me, how I need to see myself as his child, value myself as a person and someone who deserves his love.
Mm.
So yeah, I see myself in a much better light than I did before that whole ordeal happened. And with my relationship with God and my faith, I just think it's a little hard to put into words, but now say I don't go to church as often anymore, but um I just feel like wherever I can find the presence of God is enough for me. The way I pray has changed. I used to go through the motions of I had a certain way I used to pray. I would start by thanking God for life, for what he's done, what he keeps doing, and praying that he keeps doing it. And then you ask for the forgiveness of sins. And then after that, you ask for your wants and your needs and all that stuff. And then, you round up by saying, thank you, God. Amen. You go. But now my prayers are more like conversations.
Wow, beautiful.
it's not necessarily about, I can pray. It doesn't matter what position I'm in. I can be sitting down, lying down, upside down, in the air, whatever. And if I need to pray, I say my prayer right there and then. And it's more like I'm saying, it's more like I'm talking to God, like, I don't know what's going on, but
Mhm.
you help me figure this out. Can you help me handle
Mhm.
this? Can you show me what I need to do? Or can you put people in my path that are going to help me through this? Before it was more like, thank you, God, for giving me life and for doing. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm just saying the whole experience pushed me past praying that way. My prayers with God are so much to God are so much different. It's more like I'm talking to him, I'm conversing with him, and it's like you said earlier, conversations are like two-way things. So it's like I'm talking to this person who I can't see, but I know is there because his said so many prayers. So I know he can hear me.
Thank you for sharing your story, Chidera. Chidera, sorry. Thank you for sharing your story. Um, Two things that you said stood out to me. You said you see yourself in a better light. How? And I was just asking myself, how does someone that's gone through this kind of painful journey make that kind of statement? Because it is beautiful. It is beautiful to come out at the end and say, I see myself, God has taken me through this journey. I see myself worth, I see myself better. Something that was meant to crush you, break you, and make you feel like, oh, you're lacking or you're deficient. But you see yourself better. And God is not more relatable. What else can anybody ask for? It is not, you're not seeking to practice religion. It is about relationship. It's communion with God. And that's beautiful. Okay, thank you very much. So to just wrap this up, I don't know, anyone might be listening to this, going through chemo, going through a cancer journey, or they just got a diagnosis as well. What would be your message of encouragement or hope to anyone listening to this?
I know these days, people make it like seem like a bad thing to pray when you need help from God. It doesn't matter if you've been absent or if you haven't been praying before. Every time is a great time to start. So start now. It's never too late. There's never like the perfect timing. Anytime you start is a perfect time for God. So start now. Pray. Talk to God. Don't feel guilty when maybe you can't get your prayers in. So, you can pray anywhere you are, any position you're in, it doesn't matter. Silent prayer, loud prayer, however you want to pray, just pray to God and ask for help. Ask for help from God, ask for help from your family, from your friends. Let God direct you also when you ask for help, because again, it's not everybody that you need to be asking help from. Some people are not there to help you. They're just there to probably make your journey much worse than it already is.
Mhm.
So just have faith that you're going to be okay. And if you don't, surround yourself with people who do. I'm grateful for my mother because so many times I lost, my faith dipped. Like at a point, I think when you start going through all the stages of grief that we talk about, one minute you're sad, the next minute you're mad. There are going to be seasons like that. There are going to be times like that. So you need to surround yourself with people who see you in a much better light, who have faith that you're going to be okay, and will resound out to you every
Mm.
chance and every opportunity. Like you need to be able to turn to someone and say, this is what I'm thinking right now. This is what I'm going through in my head. And they will be positive and they will support you and they will tell you you're going to be okay. God
Mm.
is going to hear your prayers. God is going to answer your prayers. And like I said in the beginning, the best thing you can do is pray. Talk to God, converse with God, chat with God. Doesn't matter what your prayer can look like anything. It's up to you to make it look like whatever you want it to look like, but just talk to God. Because if you do, there's like 100% chance things are going to be so much better.
Wow.
Yeah, have faith, talk to God, surround yourself with people who have faith as well, who believe in God, who will support you through your journey. And just as a human being, also just be kinder as well to people around you, because you never know. But yeah, just stay strong. If you're going through whatever you're going through in life is not a permanent situation. I can promise you that, because I know you mentioned something about seeing myself in a better light. If my story before, even before the cancer, is way, I'm not gonna say it's way worse, because I don't think there's anything worse than cancer, but it could be comparable. So going from that to having cancer was, I was mad, because I was like, how did you let me go through all this? Now you're giving me cancer again, because that's what I felt like for a minute. So there's gonna be times like that. Just don't let it keep you down. Go through all your feelings and then come out of it. Just don't stay in those feelings for too long, because if you do, then it just makes everything around you worse. And it makes you not to see how blessed you are. It makes you not to see the miracles happening around you. It makes you not to see the people and the path that God has created for you. So go through it, but don't let it keep you down.
Yeah. Wow, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much for those words. I don't know if you're if you're going through something difficult. I know it is difficult, but like Chidera said, it's don't feel you cannot start praying to God now. Whether you start now, whether you start tomorrow, whenever you start is the right time. Because all is he's just standing with his hands open. Come unto me, right? And she said, you cannot trust yourself. You can't trust yourself, and you cannot trust another human with yourself. And who else can we trust but the one who created each and every one of us? So go to him, talk to him. You're angry, vent. You're sad, yes. You're happy, yes. Express all the emotions, right? It is not about going to yeah, you can go to a counselor and talk to a counselor, but he's even the greater counselor. He's the one that you can express everything, and he has your best interest at heart. He can see tomorrow, he can see yesterday, he can see today, and he knows the right way to comfort you and to carry you through this season. So be vulnerable with him. He's just there with his arms open, and he just wants to listen. He wants to help you. So don't go away. Don't trust yourself to another human that is also limited in their own capacity, but trust God, who is limitless and is able to carry you. I hope you've been blessed. I hope you've learned one or two things in this episode, and I hope that your faith is strengthened until we come your way again next episode. God bless you.